Hey there, and welcome to a TechHub.training solution video for the Python challenge entitled SEC and ASC. To participate in this challenge, follow the link below. Let's jump in. So in this challenge, you received a couple files. The first was a zipped file containing a folder of uploads. Uploads are what the SEC calls its correspondence with companies when it reaches out to inquire about different accounting practices. We often call these in practice comment letters. This folder contains specifically all the SEC comment letters sent in the first quarter of 2023 that specifically refer to sections of the Accounting Standards Codification, also known as ASC, the codification, or just US GAAP. Now, we want to parse through these to be able to find out which sections of US GAAP are under greatest SEC scrutiny right now. This is helpful as an accounting professional because it helps you better understand these highly scrutinized sections of the codification and be able to better advise your clients. Let's look at a random comment letter here in this folder. You see that we have a .text file containing the full text of the letter, and what we want to extract are counts of different topics. So you see, for instance, this letter has at least 2 references to ASC 970, 1 to ASC 323, ASC 805. Careful, this is a phone number, not a section in the codification. You want to extract in all 12 of these letters all of those references and count each of them to see which are the most commonly referred to by the SEC. To help you do that, you also received a file containing just the names of all the topics. It's helpful to know the names because a report saying that, for instance, ASC topic 860 is referred 2 times doesn't tell you anything unless you know that the name of that would be transfers and servicing. So let's jump into the solution code. Here I used a few packages, 2 native to Python, OS, which helps me work with my operating system, get file directories, and RE, which is regex. Regex will help us identify the pattern that will allow us to loop through all of the files in our folder and extract all references to sections in the codification. Finally, I use pandas to compile a quick report. So these 2 lines here, if you're a Windows user, then your file directories are delimited with a /, which is a special character in Python, so it's // to escape that special character. Mac users, it's just a simple \. So here I save my folder of uploads into a file variable called directory. We'll be able to use that here in this for loop to loop through each upload or file in that directory or uploads folder. I then save a regex pattern. This might be the most important part of this code here because this is the pattern that regex will use to identify any time that an ASC topic is referenced. So this pattern is the letters A, S, and C, followed by at least 1 up to infinite number of white space characters, followed by exactly 3 digits 0 through 9. That will extract every reference to an ASC topic while excluding anything similar like a phone number. Finally, I initialize just an empty dictionary where I'm going to save as key value pairs the topic name and the count of the topics. So then, as I mentioned, this for loop will loop through each file in the uploads folder, save the contents of it as a string variable called text. And then what I did here is I replaced any new line characters followed by spaces with just a simple space. That will kind of clean up these files a little bit as we parse through them. You could also alternatively try to include that in your pattern here, but I felt like that made the pattern a little more complex, so I just decided to replace them. ASC topics is a list variable that will be created by using the regex find all method. This method accepts the pattern that we wrote earlier and the text, which is the string variable containing the entire text of the letter. And I went ahead and for safe measure included the parameter ignore case. That way if ASC happens to be lowercase in any instance, which I doubt it would be, but just in case, it would still recognize them. So what this method does is it will go into that text of the letter, and anytime it finds any match to this, it will save it into this list. So now that we have a list containing all of the ASC topics referenced in the letter, I'm going to loop through that list, and I'm going to go ahead and add all instances of those topics to our dictionary. If it's a topic that has been referenced in a previous letter or before in the same letter, we're going to add it to an existing key with the topic name and add 1 to the value of that. If not, then it's just going to create a new key in the dictionary with that topic name, like ASC 805, and it will give it an initial value of 1. Then anytime ASC 805 is referenced later on, it will this expression will evaluate to true, and it will add 1 to come to a total count of 2. So now that that's done, this will loop through all 12 letters in the comment letter folder and create a dictionary that contains the counts of all of them. The challenge would be done if we didn't want to go ahead and include the names of those topics based off of that other file that I gave you. What this code here does is it just saves that dictionary into a data frame. I felt like data frame is a little bit better representation of a report than a dictionary would be, and I sorted it so that the most mentioned would be on top. So now we're gonna go ahead and extract the names and pair them with the ASC topics. Here we just used the open function and read it in just as we did up here with the text variables. We read it into a variable. Now, the difference is we used the method .read, which reads the entire file into a single string. In this, I used read lines, which this now becomes a list. Each line in the file becomes a new entry in that list. So then I'm looping through each topic name in that list that we just created. And I'm also looping through all the rows in the data frame. And I'm going to search for if there's a match to, this is the pattern that we're searching for in this name of the topic. We're going to look for in each row of the data frame if I can find a match after the first 3 here. It will be just, and I'm getting rid of these first 3, the ASC. If I can find a match here for the topic number 606, if I can find any match to that number within the name of the topic, then I'm going to go ahead, and I'm basically concatenating here the name of the topic with the numbers of the topic and saving that into the location in the data frame. Finally, I'm just printing the data frame so that we can see it down here and saving it to a variable, or sorry, saving it to an Excel file called SEC Topics of Interest. If I run this again, select my kernel, I'll see the same output I had. Here we see that ASC 606, the new revenue standard, was mentioned 9 times, with business combinations mentioned 6 and derivatives mentioned 4 times. Everything else was just mentioned once or twice. This makes a lot of sense to me. ASC 606 is new, and things like derivatives and business combinations are traditionally more difficult and will receive greater SEC scrutiny. If we come to the file directory, we also see here that I saved it into a very simple report that contains basically the same information. But I could save that, send it to a client, look at it if needed, do more research on these. That's the challenge. I hope you enjoyed it.